Hey everybody, what's going on? My name is Klaus and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Clash of Clans. And we're going to be covering a guide that's been requested of me several times. It's the Town Hall 9 Laboratory Research Guide for farmers. Now, I've already done a Town Hall 9 War Guide and everything below Town Hall 9, so if you want to check that out, it's in the Clash of Clans Guides playlist. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about Town Hall 9 farming. So if you are a farmer, what should you upgrade first in the laboratory? Well, it's hard to say. It really is difficult to say what you should upgrade first, because think about the differences. Farming is based on you. It's based on what you like to do, and it's about keeping your cost low. Versus war, which is based entirely on current meta and a little bit on your personal preference. So it's kind of hard to come up with a guide to give you guys the best list on what troops you should upgrade to have the best bang for your buck in the laboratory for Town Hall 9 farming. So what I've done is I kind of made a list of the more popular farming strategies and then threw together a list based upon my own preference. So guys, before you start throwing the hate down in the comments or anything like that, understand that this is all my personal preference and something I'd recommend to you as I have completed Town Hall 9. And one more thing before we get into this is, if you are a farmer, this is incredibly important that you make sure you max out your Town Hall 8 base and all the laboratory upgrades before you go to Town Hall 9. Otherwise, you're going to have options in your laboratory to upgrade things that aren't going to be in this guide. This is all for Town Hall 9 max. Town Hall 8 max troops need to be done before you can follow this guide. But let's get right into it, shall we? So I believe, and this is actually true for the farming guide too, that the first troop you should upgrade is the Giants. The Giants at level, I believe it's 6. Those level 6 Giants are super powerful, guys. I mean, they are just legit. And if you get a mass of them all going all at once, you're going to be able to do things with Giants that you shouldn't be able to do. You can be able to break through walls. You're going to be able to take out defenses like crazy, not just tank. So Giants is definitely number one in my book for any major farming strategy, or at least a lot of them, okay? So don't take the word any and go crazy with it. But anyway, so Giants is definitely number one. But number 2 and beyond is based all on personal preference. And so we're going to start with the most basic farming strategy there is, and that is Barch, Barbarians and Archers. And I want to start out with Archers because Archers are just, they're useful in a lot of ways. They shoot over the walls, which is different than the Barbarians. You usually send them behind Giants, and that's why they're number 2. The Archers, with the additional damage per second, the additional HP, they can do more as an upgraded troop. And, you know, like I've said, they're used in multiple armies, not just 1 or 2. So that's why they're number 2. And remember guys, this is generally what you do. You train up your cheaper armies and your littler armies, your littler troops, whenever you first start farming, and then once you finish that laboratory with all the little troops, then you move on to the bigger armies that are more expensive. That's generally how this works. So number 3 is going to be the Goblin. The Goblin, this new upgrade for the Goblin is probably the best upgrade you get as a Town Hall 9, period. Because the Goblin Knife, or Mass Goblin, or the Goblin Walk, just kidding, that doesn't exist. The Goblins are super powerful, guys. They are amazing. So, if you haven't seen my guide on the Goblin Knife, I recommend you check it out. The link for that will be in the description. But goblins are super powerful, especially with these max level goblins. So that's why they're level 3. They do a ton of damage to resource buildings, which is what you're doing as a farmer. So goblins are kind of a staple troop for farming players. And then number 4, we're going to move on to the Barbarian. We're finally going to cover the Barbarian. I personally only use Barbarian for Barch or Bam. And I don't even use Bam, but Barch for sure. So you want to have the Barbarians upgraded, you want to be able to tank more damage, you want to be able to deal more damage, and that's one way to do it. Also, if you upgrade these Barbarians, the King special ability gets stronger as well because it affects those Barbarians as well. So that's number 4. Number 5, as I mentioned earlier with Bam, number 5 is the Minion because, you know, hey, stronger air troops is always a good thing. If they can take more shots, if they can deal a little bit more damage, that BAM army will be that much stronger. And actually, that covers all of the BAM troops. That also covers all the Barch troops and also the Jai Barch troops. Those are probably the 3 most probably the most popular farming strategies there is. There's also an army that I kind of came up with called the Gigabarch, which is Jive Barch with goblins, and you've already covered that as well. So that is really the main forces, the main troops for farming at almost any Town Hall level, but especially Town Hall 9 with that Goblin Knife. Goblin Knife is doable at Town Hall 7 and 8, but it is extremely valuable at Town Hall 9 because there's a lot more Dark Elixir available, and that level 6 Goblin's just super powerful, especially under Heal Spell, which is what's number 6. So we're going to get our Heal Spell upgraded and, keep the Goblins alive in the core, or keep the Giants alive on the wall, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then number 7, we're moving on to healers. And healers are very useful on Giants, but they're also very, very useful on the Queen. So don't forget that while you're spending all this elixir on all these little baby troops, you're pouring your Dark Elixir into your new Archer Queen. The Queen's super powerful, and you can pull off a pretty decent Queen walk at Queen level 10. So I recommend you get her to level 10 as quickly as you can. I think probably level 15 is actually your best bet for starting the Queen walk, but I did it at level 10 and it was hard, but it's doable with the max healer, which like I said is number 7. Very, very doable. And then moving on to number 8, you've got the jump spell. So the jump spell at level 1 is 20 seconds and at level 2 is 40 seconds. So you got twice the time to allow your troops to actually utilize that jump spell. Before, it's really hard to utilize that jump spell, but after it's 40 seconds, that's a pretty good chunk of your raid. I mean, that's a good 25%, if not more, of your raid. That's hashtag Klaus math right there, 25%. So the jump spell, it's going to allow you to funnel better. It's better than using Quad Quake, because Quad Quake uses 4 spell capacity. Jump spell only uses 2. Now, of course, make sure that you've upgraded your spell factory before you get to number 8 on our list. Number 9 is our poison spell. Now we're getting into really, what's the best way to put this? The superfluous stuff. I mean, it's stuff that you don't really need to upgrade in order to farm successfully. Now we're getting into the more nitty-gritty of Town Hall 9. Midway through Town Hall 9, we're going to upgrade the poison spell at number 9. The reason why is because the poison spell has saved my butt so many times in the past. So many times. You get clan castle troops coming out attacking your stuff, or you get the enemy queen, enemy king, drop that poison spell and it kills them or it slows them down, and it is just a clutch supportive spell. So always make sure you get at least 1 poison spell, and if you upgrade it, it just helps that much more. And now getting into number 10, you're really getting into what I really think are superfluous troops. Troops you don't need to farm with, but it's fun to use, and that's the Valkyrie. Number 10 is the Valkyrie. You get two levels, and the Valkyries are super good at just breaking into bases, burrowing in, wiping out the core, gutting the core, if you will. And it's very useful against Town Hall 10s. If you're Town Hall 9, you're trying to trophy push, Valkyries are OP, guys. So they cost Dark Elixir. So I think it's important right now to mention and remind you guys that farming is about spending a little and gaining a lot. So if you're going to be using Valkyries, make sure that you're up in the higher leagues, or you're attacking only bases with a ton of Dark Elixir. That way you can keep upgrading your queen, your king, into other Dark Elixir troops in your laboratory. So upgrading those Valkyries is very important, and this part of the guide, guys, is all based on the assumption that people are more likely to farm with ground troops. Most of the time, guys, I will see people using Valkyries mixed with Giants and Barbarians and Archers and Goblins. This just Valkyries add a little more punch. But sometimes people like to use air troops, but it's less common. So that's why the air troops are going to be nearer to the end of our guide. Covering the ground troops first, the air troops last. If you're the opposite, guys, if you love farming with Lava Loon, you've already upgraded Lava Hounds in your Dark Barracks, and you're using Lava Loon, you're more than welcome to change this list as much as you want. But this, like I said, this is all based on my personal preference and my experience with Town Hall 9 and also operating 2 clans. So, number 11 is the Hog Rider. Now, the Hog Rider is really useful in war, maybe a little less useful in farming. But I personally use a Hog Rider a ton in farming. You guys have seen my Queen Walk army. It's the healers, it's a ton of archers and wall breakers, and then hogs. That's pretty much it. So Hog Riders are useful to me, but to the average person, Hog Riders aren't all that important in farming, but more important than the troops that haven't been mentioned yet, you know what I'm saying? So moving on from number 11 Hog Riders, we go to number 12, and that's just the Golems. We've covered all of the ground troops now. The Golem, just a tanker troop. If you want to do some fun armies and drop a Golem and then send witches behind or something crazy, then that'll work. But at this point, you really are into the troops that are you just upgrading because you feel like it. Maybe you feel like hitting bigger bases at the top of the leagues, but as far as just the general low-cost farming is concerned, the rest of these are just for fun. So number 13 is the Balloon, and a lot of you guys are going to say, hold it. Balloons, this upgrade is intense, and I say you are absolutely right. The balloons may want to be higher in the list. Like I said, this is all based on personal preference, but me personally and a lot of my clan mates, we don't use balloons for anything except for war. So that's why it's so low in the list, but it is the first air troop that we're upgrading aside from the minion, which is BAM, which is a very common cheap army, and the healer, which I don't really consider an air troop anyway, because it only helps ground troops. So anyway, all that aside, I digress. Balloons is number 13, and then moving on from there, getting into the interesting flying troops, number 14 is a Lava Hound for Lavalunion or Gola Loon. All these are pretty much just war strategies. And then 15 is the Baby Dragon. The Baby Dragon's useful. It's just a little bit overpowered and costly, you know. So Baby Dragon is useful for funneling. It's useful for clan castle donations, but that's pretty much it. And then Dragons is number 16. And a lot of people will say, hold it. Yeah, I know I'm doing this a lot. Hold it. Dragons are OP. You can get to Legends League with dragons or something crazy like that, and I don't believe that, for one, because you'd run out of elixir, I think, but dragons are super expensive. That's the reason why dragons have been left out of this guide up until number 16, because they're super expensive. How are you gonna farm and gain elixir when you're spending so much elixir? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's gonna cost you 400,000 elixir or more to cover these dragons. So that's why they're so low in the list. And then number 17, we're going to be doing the lightning spell. If you ever decide you want to do a BBQ, bolt quake on some air defenses, that extra level on the lightning spell is very important for that. Like I said, still big armies for big troops, big raids for big leagues, not really farming. And then number 18 is the haste spell. Haste spell just speeds stuff up. I've really never noticed the difference between level 1 and level 2 haste or something like that, so that's why it's at the bottom of our list. And but it's still supportive for ground or for air troops. And well, actually it's supportive of both, but I've only seen the haste really used for air troops, mainly the balloons, since they're so dang slow. Okay, now we're getting into the last two, and the last two are very useless upgrades, but we're still gonna do them because we max out our bases, right? We don't rush your base. Anyway, so number 19 is the Witch. The Witch, in the current meta of the game, is largely useless, but it's good to upgrade those things anyway, because if Supercell ever decides to change the way witches operate, we could very well see another powerful army composition using witches. So you don't want to be behind. You don't want to have the level 1 witch when everyone else is level 2. So make sure you upgrade that. And then finally, the last upgrade that's available to us is the Earthquake spell. And I've covered this many times. It doesn't do much at all. It doesn't really help you at all. In fact, a lot of people suggest don't even upgrade the Earthquake spell at all, because it just costs you more Dark Elixir to train it. But you can use max Earthquake spells, or you can use level 1 Earthquake spells. You have to use 4 no matter what to break into walls. So that's why it's number 20. That's why it's at the bottom of our list. And that actually covers our entire list of farming troops for Town Hall 9, guys, covering mainly BAM, Barch, Jaibarch, Gigabarch armies at the beginning, and then getting into more traditional war and pushing armies at the end. And that's very generic. That's very normal for a lab guide, especially for an upper level lab guide. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, other suggestions, opinions, etc., please post them in the comments below. Otherwise, smack a like if you liked this video, and subscribe to the Klaus family if you have not done that already. If you haven't joined the Klaus family, we'd love to have you, and we're getting bigger and better each and every day, so you would be joining a fun family. We post videos every single day. Actually, there's something special coming up very soon, so be sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time. Love you guys. Peace.